So last season, I predicted the 2024-25 Premier League final table. It did not go well. I predicted Manchester United to finish in third place, one higher than eventual league champions Liverpool, and I also predicted Chelsea to finish in 10th. Aren't I a silly twat? But it's a new season, it's a new outlook, everything's feeling positive, so I thought, let's give it another go and try and really shoot my credibility in the head by predicting the 2025-26 Premier League table. And if you wouldn't mind, guys, please make sure to click like and subscribe. We've finally reached 5,000 of you, which is insane. Let's make that push for the 10K mark. Let's just get this going. Thank you so much for being involved. So in 20th place to start this off, I have gone with Burnley. Sorry, Jacob. But there's a reason for this. Number one, Scott Parker, while an excellent championship level manager, he's proved in the Premier League that he does tend to struggle, particularly during that spell at Bournemouth. And while he oversaw a Burnley team who last season conceded just 16 goals, only one more than Mourinho's Chelsea did, by the way, during that 04-05 season, in more games played, and also picking up 100 points, doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be safe. Losing CJ Egan Riley is a huge blow for them. Top goal scorer Josh Brownhill has left. James Trafford has gone to Man City. And while they've been able to bring in Lone Chuana, who last season was in the top 14% of Serie A attackers for progressive passes received and the top 2% for goal-creating actions, I don't think they've recruited well enough, and I just don't think they've got the defensive structures to support it. Kyle Walker, while an excellent player on paper, maybe as a morale booster, someone who's got Premier League experience, is he going to be able to produce top quality numbers during the Premier League season at the age he is now? I'm not too convinced, and I think Burnley are going to struggle this coming campaign. In 19th place, I have gone for Brentford. Now, it's a gamble. I know it's a gamble, but it's one I'm willing to bet my wallet on. Brentford, if you go back to last season, finished in 10th place, despite having lost Ivan Toney the summer before. And if anything, that was a blessing in disguise for them. They managed to see, we saw Brian Mbeumo get to the status he was, Johan Visa started to flourish, all under the tutelage of Thomas Frank. But none of those three people I've mentioned are at the club anymore. They've replaced Thomas Frank with Keith Andrews, who was a set-piece coach, and if he was at Arsenal, probably would have had a shrine dedicated to him by now. And I just think that losing Mbeumo and Visa is going to have massive repercussions on their season. Bringing in Kelleher is a brilliant addition to the club, but to me, this just seems like a gamble. This seems like the club is saying, right, we're committed to going down and rebuilding the future under Keith Andrews. Let's just not get spanked doing it. And I think that Brentford, we've seen time and time again for the clubs, as we're going to allude to shortly, losing their key players, you can only do so much with that. Losing Toney and Mbeumo and Wissa in 2 transfer windows, as well as Christian Norgard, who was huge for Brentford last season, may just be a step too far, not even touching on the fact they lost Thomas Frank there. So for me, 19th place for Brentford, championship calls for them. Now in 18th place, I have gone for Wolverhampton Wanderers. Yes, 2 established Premier League teams are going to be going down this season, in my opinion. And if you saw the recent Zach Jalab video that I was in, you will understand why people are annoyed that Wolves are still in the Premier League. No amount of limbs is going to save it. Losing Mateus Cunha to Manchester United and losing Aït-Nouri to Manchester City are big part of why I think Wolves will go down. Yes, keeping Strand Larsen is a brilliant move for Wolves. He did score 14 league goals last season, but if you look at the goals that he scored, it's very clear that he needs a creative player behind him to put him into goal-scoring positions, with him feeling very much like a poacher in the box. Losing Aït-Nouri is going to have a massive impact on Wolves' attacking numbers, with him being one of their most creative players, not just in the league, but in the season as a whole last campaign, ranking in the top 18% for progressive carries into the final third, and carries into the penalty area. And while signing Fer Lopez could be viewed as a good deal, he does very much feel like a Jeremy Doku style player with terrific running stats and progressive stats as well, but him only picking up 2 goals and 0 assists in 17 La Liga appearances. This to me feels like a gamble, and one that won't pay off for Wolves. In 17th place, I have got Sunderland. Yes, a newly promoted team staying up in the top flight. It's unheard of. But I think Sunderland have just enough to escape from the drop this season. First off, the fan base is going to make the Stadium of Light an absolute nightmare to visit. I'm not looking forward to Liverpool making the trip there. The fan base is going to be pissed up on Doom Bar and Euphoria and will make it into what Everton would like to be, a bear pit. Not only that, but their recruitment has been solid. Yes, They've lost Joe Bellingham to Dortmund. Yes, they've lost Tom Watson to Brighton. But signing Habib Diarra, who was one of the most progressive midfielders in Liga last season, massive business. Granit Xhaka, one of the best passers in Europe as a whole last campaign, is huge for them, not just in terms of what he provides on the pitch, but off it with the experience he provides. And also bringing in Enzo Lefebvre on a permanent deal is huge. It may be uninspiring to some, but it's a masterstroke from the Sunderland board. The former Roma midfielder was in the top 3% of championship midfielders last season for tackles, interceptions, blocks, and clearances, while recording 4.23 progressive carries and 4.59 progressive passes per 90 minutes. Quite simply, I think they will be fine and have more than enough quality, particularly in midfield, to survive the drop this season ahead of the likes of Brentford and Wolves, as I've already touched on. In 16th place, I have gone for West Ham. Yes, I know, irons and all that. That was Wakanda forever, but yeah, irons, bubbles, pop, whatever you want to say, but hear me out. West Ham, while they've signed the likes of Kyle Walker-Peters and Jesus Christ, this name gives me PTSD, El Hadji Diouf, who both look like real talent in defense, the main issue isn't their defense, it's their talent up top. Last season, the GSE only scored 44 league goals, which is only higher than Manchester United, Everton, and the 3 relegated teams beneath them. They've also lost Mohamed Kudus, who, yes, had a bad season during 24-25 campaign, but was still a big player in an attacking sense for them, and they've addressed their goal-scoring issue by signing Callum Wilson, who couldn't stay fit long enough to manage a cup of tea at half-time. Simply relying on Jarrod Bowen to carry the weight of the squad isn't good enough, with their next highest goal scorer in attack being the Kudus, who's just left them, and their next highest after that being Nicholas Füllkrug, who only scored 3 all season. While the defence is certainly looking more solid now, it's their lack of options up top which I think is going to hinder them. So having Bowen there is terrific, of course, and I'm sure they will bring in reinforcements, but is it enough to get them any higher than 16th place? I'm not too convinced. In 15th place, I have gone for Leeds. Now, it's always nice having Leeds back in the division. It is. Like, it's nice having Leeds, unless your name's Mark Viduka, in which case, piss off. On a serious note, the Lily Whites are back, and back with a bang. Last season, they dominated the championship, scoring 95 goals, 24 higher than next highest side, Norwich City, and conceded just 30 with an XG against of only 29.6, which was actually almost 10 lower than Burnley on 39.1, who recorded just 16 goals conceded. Not only that, but they've reinforced the back line, signing brilliant players like Anton Stach from Hoffenheim and Xhaka Bayol from Udinese, both of whom put out brilliant numbers defensively last campaign. They've managed to keep a hold of top goal scorer Joel Perreault and possess a young and exciting squad who are capable of adding some incredible attacking threat to the Premier League, with the likes of Mana Solomon, Brendan Aronson, and Wilfred Gnonto all producing 9+ goals in the Championship last season. Yes, Daniel James tried in the Premier League and didn't quite reach the level that we expected of him during his time at Manchester United. And yes, the signing of Dominic Calvert-Lewin doesn't particularly inspire a high level of confidence, but they've recruited well and showed they are capable next season, with, for me, the only question mark over whether or not they will survive or be relegated being Daniel Farke, given his track record at Norwich City in the Premier League. In 14th place, I have gone for Crystal Palace. Yes, I know, I understand, FA Cup winners. Dick does in the Community Shield a few days ago. But again, hear me out. While Palace had a terrific 24-25 season, winning the FA Cup and their first piece of major silverware, and of course keeping hold of Oliver Glasner going into the campaign, they're in for a rude awakening. Mark Gahey only has 1 year left on his current deal, and by all accounts, Steve Parish would rather the world burn than lose Mark Gahey on a free next summer. So the odds are he's going to leave this summer for a fee. Please come to Liverpool. I am desperate for you to join. They also haven't recruited hardly anyone, with their only 2 signings being Borna Sosa from Ajax and Walter Benitez, a 32-year-old backup goalkeeper from PSV. The taste for silverware is going to be there, and will the club prioritise a 12th place finish again over a potential Europa Conference League push and more silverware on the horizon? I'm not too sure. We could see a West Ham style season from Crystal Palace. The idea of winning another trophy, this time on a European landscape, may be too good for them to pass by. Also, if there's one thing we learned from that Community Shield final against Liverpool a few days ago, is that Palace have a shocking lack of depth on the bench. And it only takes 1 or 2 injuries for them to really start to capitulate with them in Europe in midweek and then the Premier League on the weekend. Are they going to be able to handle that, especially given the lack of recruitment they've hired this season and the potential of Eberici Eze leaving to Tottenham in the coming weeks? I'm not too sure. In 13th place, I have gone for Bournemouth. And yes, it's me going out on a limb. And I understand that Bournemouth finished 9th last season and have managed to keep hold of all their incredible attacking players, the likes of Semenyo, Kluivert, Tavernier, Ivan Nielsen. But look at what happened to Southampton a few years ago. You can't go season on season on season losing your key players and expect to continue to push for European places. Losing Zabanya to PSG, losing Huijsen to Real Madrid, losing Kerkez to Liverpool, Kepa to Arsenal is a massive blow to them. And yes, while they've brought in a talented player in Adrian Truffet, who ranked in the top 15% for league and fullbacks for crosses into the box last season, and the addition of Petrovic isn't awful per se, it does feel like a lot of change and something that will start to affect Bournemouth. Iraola is someone who's able to get chicken salad from chicken shit. I'm not even going to dispute that. But that's a lot of change in the back line. Are Bournemouth going to be able to keep up with the intensity of the Premier League on a weekly basis? I'm not too sure. In 12th place, I have gone for Fulham. Now, it may be a harsh spot for Fulham, given the fact that I'm expecting a lot of the teams who have finished above them to drop off, but I'm also expecting some of the teams that finish beneath them to head higher up the table, and it sort of balances out in that regard. While Fulham have not signed anyone massive this summer, they also haven't lost anyone major. Reece Nelson and Willian, sure, fair enough, but they weren't big players for Fulham last season. They've still got Smith Rowe, they've still got Harry Wilson, they've still got Muniz, they've still got Iwobi, they've still got all these talented players. And for my money, Fulham feel like one of the most stable mid-table teams in the division. Marco Silva's still knocking around. The only problem they've got at the moment is Raul Jimenez. While he ended last season on 12 goals, finishing as their top scorer, he is now 33 years old, soon to be 34. And is Rodrigo Muniz going to be able to shoulder all the responsibility of Fulham's central goal scoring when that does happen? I'm not too sure. It feels like they are going to have to recruit people sooner rather than later. But as a whole, they still possess some of the best attacking midfielders in that mid-table section, in the previously mentioned Smith Rowe and Wilson, etc. I think Fulham are going to be fine. And 12th place to me seems like a fair spot for them to finish. In 11th, I have gone for Everton. That's right. I'm predicting Everton will move higher up the table for a 3rd season in a row. It truly, truly is the end of days. But yes, Everton look on paper to be one of the best mid-table teams in the Premier League this season, ahead of the likes of Fulham, Palace, and Bournemouth. And this could make me look like an absolute fool, but there's logic to it. While losing Calvert-Lewin is a blow to Everton to a sense, he missed 15 games last season and hasn't put out anywhere near the numbers that people would have expected of him recently since the Ancelotti era. So it made sense for him to move on. They brought in Fierno Barry, an absolute unit in the front line who's going to be a treat for Everton fans to watch. Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, great acquisition. Can they get him back to the levels that we saw at Leicester? Quite possibly. Maybe David Moyes is the man to do it. And of course, the loan signing of Jack Grealish in a new stadium. Lots of fans are going to be watching those matches. Jack Grealish is the type of energetic, exciting player to get that atmosphere going. Not seen since the days of maybe James Rodriguez for Everton. This is a big loan signing for Everton. And while they maybe wanted Tyler Dibling just to give that extra versatility on the wing and more of an extra threat, they've also got Njai still there. For me, Everton feel pretty stable at the moment. Yes, the injuries to Jarrad Branthwaite is a big blow to them, and they will take a bit of time to recover from probably some poor results stemming from that. But for me, Everton are safe, and I think 11th place feels like a fair finish for them. In 10th place, I have gone for Manchester United. I'm not overcompensating for last season, I swear, but hear me out. Manchester United have arguably had one of the better summer windows in terms of incomings. Brian Mbeumo, Mateus Cunha, Benjamin Sesko. Great signings. The problem isn't the strikers. The problem is getting the ball to those strikers. That Europa League final last season was one of the worst matches I have seen in years, and I know a lot of people feel the same. United felt so creatively stifled, knocking the ball from side to side. There's no real threat they have to get the ball into those attacking players. Simply sticking a Benjamin Sesko and Mbeumo and Cunha up top isn't good enough when your back line also still has Harry Maguire in it. You've still got Amadou Onana in goal, which is an utter mess waiting to happen. And your only real creative outlet is Bruno Fernandes. Yes, they've lost Garnacho potentially. Yes, Rashford's gone. Yes, they've sifted out a lot of the bad eggs, so to speak, from their squad. But has Amorim got enough creative power to be able to warrant all these attacking style players? I'm not too sure. So for me, I think 10th is a fair finish. They could finish slightly higher. They could finish slightly lower. It's a gamble. I'm just not too convinced by what I've seen from United this summer. In 9th place, I have gone for Brighton and Hove Albion. Losing João Pedro is massive for them. 17 goal involvements in the Premier League just alone. But he's not the only attacking threat that Brighton have. Matoma and Danny Welbeck both recorded 11 goals and 4 assists apiece last season and were key components in Brighton's well-structured and drilled attack. Not only that, but yes, they have lost Simon Adingra, and yes, they've lost Estupiñán, but they've recruited new players to replace them brilliantly. Bringing in Maxime de Voipa, who was one of the most creative fullbacks in the Belgian Pro League last season, and Tom Watson, who ranked in the top 3% of championship wingers for progressive carries and touches in the penalty area, while also producing 5.56 crosses and 1.52 passes into the penalty area per 90 minutes, give Brighton that added layer of attack, despite losing the likes of Pedro and Estupiñán. It's not without fault, and there's no guarantee that Belieber is going to be here going into next season, but the recruitment of Brighton over the past few years has been incredible, and I have very little reason to doubt that they can still push for the mid-table section and the top half of the Premier League table, despite losing the likes of Pedro. In 8th place, I have gone for Nottingham Forest. Yes, this one's a gamble. I'll put my hands up and say it's a complete shot in the dark and one that could come back to bite me. But hear me out. Nottingham Forest, while they had an incredible campaign last season, finishing in 7th place and picking up wins over the likes of City, Liverpool, and Tottenham, this is purely based on the fact that they now have to play 2 games a week. They are in European competition, the Europa League now. This is going to have a major impact on their team going forward. They've kept the hold of their defensive units of the likes of Sells, Milenkovic, Murillo. But is Chris Wood going to continue to produce the numbers that he did last campaign? Are they going to be burnt out by the time they get to this end of the season? Keep in mind, last campaign, just with the Premier League alone, they won just one of their final 5 matches and looked burnt out beyond all belief by the final stretch of the season. Bringing in Igor Jesus, who despite his 5'11" frame managed to win 3.5 aerial duels per 90 minutes last season, is big for them. And also bringing in Dan Ndoye, who picked up 8 goals and 4 assists in 30 Serie A matches last campaign, is a very good signing, but I don't think they've done enough to progress beyond 7th place. And if anything, I think they'll be knocked back just 1 spot to 8th. In 7th place, I've gone for Newcastle. Now, Alexander Isak will not be a Newcastle player by the end of the transfer window. And even if by some Nuki Brown-based miracle he does remain at the club, he has made it adamant and crystal clear he will not play for Newcastle again. And that is going to have a huge, huge impact on them. The player who scored 23 goals of their 66 last season, not featuring for them, is going to be a huge detriment. Anthony Elanga is a brilliant signing, don't get me wrong, but back in the Champions League, no striking options, bar beyond maybe Nicholas Jackson coming in, maybe Johan Visa. Are they enough to propel Newcastle forward? I don't think so. Not to mention, they also haven't addressed the lack of depth they have in midfield or in the back line. And as we saw 2 years ago during their 22-23 season, or sorry, 23-24 season, soon as injuries start to creep in, Newcastle dip massively. Are they really going to be able to make a sustained push in the Champions League while also competing for the higher up spots in the Premier League? I don't think so. And I think the lack of rotation options, the lack of striking options, the lack of Isak, to be completely honest, is going to have a huge, huge impact on Newcastle's season going forward. In 6th place, I've gone for Aston Villa. How Unai Emery continues to get the best out of this Villa team, despite being in European competition, is remarkable to me. They finished in 6th last season, and I think that will be a fair expectation for the upcoming campaign also. They haven't lost any big name players, despite Ollie Watkins being linked to every club under the sun, and they've also brought in Evan Gusson, who last season, oh my word, in League 1, he was one of the standout performers, picking up 12 goals and 8 assists in 33 matches for Nice, while also ranking in the top 12% of League 1 strikers for progressive carries, successful take-ons, and the top 16% for shot-creating actions, recording 3.19 a match. They've kept the hold of Morgan Rogers for now, and have also kept hold of all their key assets from last season. And for me, I have full faith that Villa will continue to fight for those top spots in the Premier League. But 6 for me, probably the limit of where they're going to reach. In 5th place, I have put Tottenham. It's a big statement, but Tottenham were never the issue last season. It was injuries and Ange Postecoglou's attack first, attack second, attack third. Fuck it, let's just keep attacking style of football. It didn't work, and players burnt out and got injured regularly, and that's what hampered Tottenham's season. As a whole, this campaign looks much more structured. Even the Super Cup match from yesterday, the time I'm recording this, Tottenham looked brilliant in those first 80 minutes until normal service was resumed, so to speak. But I think they've brought in very good players. Paulinho looks not world-beating, but he's a bit of extra solidity in that midfield. Tell has been signed on a permanent deal, which, big season for him. And also bringing in Mohamed Kudus from West Ham is massive. Putting him behind Dominic Solanke is going to be big for them. I think when they get some defensive structure properly put in, the sky's the limit for Tottenham this season. I don't think Champions League is going to be quite reachable for them. So when I say the sky's the limit, there is a bit of reason to it. But maybe a cup run, maybe a League Cup win, something along those lines. The curse has been lifted for Tottenham. So realistically, there's no limit to what they could do in that regard. But I think in the Premier League, 5th place is where I think they'll end up. In 4th place, I have gone for Chelsea. Yes, they won the Club World Cup. Yes, João Pedro, Jamie Gittins, Joel Hato, Liam Delap are all brilliant signings. But Cole Palmer is the big issue for me. If he's in good form, he's in good form. If he's in bad form, like we saw last season, everything around him dips. He's so integral to that Chelsea team. And is he going to be able to continue to put out those consistent numbers game after game after game? Reece James is fit for now. Is he going to stay fit for the whole season? Not too convinced. And yes, while they have strengthened in the attacking areas and midfield areas of the pitch, with Xavi Simons also being linked with a move in, you still have Sanchez as your goalkeeper. That is not good enough. Not to mention the injury to Levi Colwill is massive. So if they can get things going, they could finish higher than 4th for all I know. But if some things start to break apart here and there, Reece James, as we already touched on, will Xavi Simons come in? Colwill's injury be addressed? We don't know. If they start to fall apart, I think 4th place is probably right for Chelsea. In 3rd place, I have gone for Manchester City. It's a big, big call to say that City are going to finish 3rd for a 2nd season in a row, but there is logic to it. Losing Kevin De Bruyne now is massive for City. One of the greatest players in Premier League history, gone. Say what you want about his injuries, but when he came on the pitch, he performed. Not only that, but I also think that the financial issues behind the scenes are going to have an impact. Pep, for me, he looks a bit done. Not in terms of tactically, but he looks fed up. And to be honest, I would not be surprised if this was his final season at City. He just looks ran down. And honestly, who can blame him? They've recruited well, bringing in Ryan Cherky. Reinders is a great addition. Aiton Yuri, of course. James Trafford, a bit of extra depth. But there's also that goalkeeping issue. Who's going to be the starter? Is John Stones going to stay fit? And Rodri, he's injured again now. Is he going to be the player he was when he came back? The system is so reliant on him staying fit. If he keeps getting knocks and niggles as the season progresses, he's already out now till September. How far behind is City going to be before they get to the level to push for the Premier League title? Is it going to be too late by the time he gets back and fully fit? Will he ever get fully fit? It remains to be seen. In 2nd place, I have gone for Arsenal. Now, don't get me wrong. Arsenal could very, very, very easily win this title if players stay fit and if they bring in a left winger. I have no doubt that they could really, really cause headaches for top spot, who we'll get to shortly. Bring in Zubimendi, brilliant by Arteta. There's a reason we wanted him 12 months ago. Also, adding in Gyökeres, while I do think it's a little bit overhyped, he's still a talented player. You've still got Saka there. My only concerns is when Saka gets injured, is Madueke going to continue to be able to put out the numbers to even come close to him? Not to mention they haven't recruited on that left wing. Martinelli's not that good of a player anymore, it seems. Norgard's a decent addition to the squad in terms of both on and off the pitch, but it's Arsenal. And I know that sounds daft, but do they have it in their locker under Arteta to really push for those Premier League top spots? Are they going to push for first place and actually win the season? I don't think so. I know this is a bit of a broad statement and I've got no real logic to base it off of, but they finished second for 3 seasons in a row in seasons where, let's be honest, they were the only real true title contenders. That says a lot. So for me, I think a 4th season in second place is very much on the horizon. And in first place, I have, of course, gone for Liverpool. Now, this is just a quick caveat. At the time of this recording, we've not signed Leone. Definitely, he's having his medical. We've not signed Gahey. That's not been agreed. We've not signed Isak. We're very weak in the back line, and we only have one central striker beyond Hugo Ekitike at the moment because Jadon Danns is not quite good enough. We also only have Cody Gakpo and Rio Ngamora on the left. There is concerns, but Florian Wirtz looks phenomenal. If Isak comes in, we are set up top. Gahey and Leone seem like they're possibilities. Leone especially, if he's been agreed, that's added depth there. We've got Frimpong and Kerkez. Our back line, starting back line, is arguably stronger this season than it was last season. We've got attacking threat all over the pitch. Midfield structure, McAllister's still there, Szoboszlai's still there. Losing Diaz, questionable decision, but getting rid of Nunez, absolutely. The loss of Diogo Jota could not be helped. No one saw that coming, and that will have an impact this season. But I think there's a galvanizing effect to that latter. I think that will be used as pure motivation to get this league title won in honor of him and his brother. We've recruited well. We're still recruiting well. And I've got no reason to doubt that the team that won number 20 last season will push for number 21 this season, while also going for another cup along the way. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. How would you put the Premier League table? Where do you think any of them will finish? Tell me which options on this I got incredibly wrong. I feel like United may be one that comes up in that list, but hey ho. Newcastle fans as well, I'm sorry. But let me know what you guys think. Please make sure to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.